Okay, thank you for joining us for Cannabis Connection. I am your host. This is our weekly webinar series. I am your host, Jamie Cooper, the founder of Cannabis Connection. And I am here joined today by one of our founding members, Ron Smalley of Vista Green Group. Ron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Really good. It's always great to have you. It's been a while, and you're a busy guy. You are doing all kinds of fun licensing stuff all across the country right now.
Staying busy.
Yeah, staying busy. Well, yeah, it's always good to talk to you, and a lot going on in Michigan, as you already know. I am going to start my slideshow right now so everyone can see. There we go. Okay. So I kind of wanted to talk about, before we talk to Ron and he tells us a little bit about Vista Green, I kind of want to talk about the current Michigan landscape. Last month, or actually this month, the licensing board in Michigan, they canceled their meeting for June. In fact, their next meeting, I'm looking over at my calendar, is the 12th of July. A lot of work has to be done. So far, they have taken 566 applications for pre-qualification. You know, this is step one of the process where they have to submit tax records, banking statements, get some of their attestations that are required as part of it. And 24 so far have been approved. 9 have been denied. This means there are 533 applications still left to review for just phase one of the application process. There's 2 parts to it. Phase one is that work where you have to gather all those materials, and then phase 2 is you've got to gather more materials like your operational plans, your marketing plans, your facility plans, things like that. And another thing, 254 of those applications are seeking immediate approval, meaning they want to get up and going. They've probably already submitted step 2 as well. There's 108 growers, 34 processors, 90 provisioning centers, and then 8 secure transporters and 5 safety compliance facilities. So a lot of work to be done. And you know, for the 566 people that have submitted so far, the state has collected a $6,000 application fee, meaning that the state has collected $3.4 million in application fees so far to this date alone. And this is, you know, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So Ron, a little update, that's exactly what's going on in Michigan. So tell us, I'm going to unshare my screen and we're going to get to talking about you and Vista Green and your experience and how you got into this industry.
Sure. So I've been involved for almost 7 years now. I live in Portland, Maine, and had an opportunity back 6+ years ago to get involved with a group in Maine that had 4 licenses there. After a year with them, I designed and built out dispensaries and a large grow. Saw an immediate opportunity in Massachusetts. They had just passed that November, as well as Connecticut, and wanted to take what I had learned in Maine and apply it to the people of Massachusetts and Connecticut to assist them in application process and design facilities and ultimately implementation and operations. Fast forward a few years, we have been successful in Massachusetts. We've been successful in other states, to name a few that we've worked in: New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Hawaii, Connecticut most recently, Ohio, Arkansas, and then the Florida second round, which is out right now. So, you know, we're a small firm. We're made up of strategic partners that are the best, I feel, in their class, whether it be mechanical engineer or biochemists or attorneys, security specialists, and finance specialists. I pull in strategic partners to work on these applications. And one of my partners on this, he refers to it as getting the band back together every time an application comes out. So currently we're getting the band back together for New Jersey. That's on everybody's radar. Anybody who's working on a national model level, it seems. And then Michigan, obviously, you and I have spent a lot of time together working on the Michigan opportunity. I've come into market there and given a few speeches, and we've done these webinars, and I'm very happy to see it moving forward in the way that it is, although very slow. It just means that they're being thorough, and people just have to be patient and trust the system. It's a lot of content to go through. As a matter of fact, most states that we work in, we deliver thousands of pages of content. These applications are much smaller, so they do not have to review as much. That being said, I think people that are in the process of applying or looking to apply might want to increase the amount of content that they deliver in order to set themselves apart from some of the applications that have been submitted. And it's interesting, those numbers that you put up there, 108 grower applications. That's a staggering number, especially compared to the other numbers. Typically in these types of markets like California, people don't have a lot of capital to get going in a regulated market, so they'll go with like a dispensary model or a processing model because it's an easier entry level.
Now, I know it's 108 growers. That is definitely a lot, and that's just of the 254. You would think that the provisioning center number would be a little higher because we had so many provisioning centers that were up and running before the state released these new guidelines. Now, let's say, I mean, there's nothing telling the state that there's no caps on Michigan. So they're not saying, we're only allowing 100 growers. So in that situation, when the market, have you seen it, other states where the market has been saturated with growers and not enough dispensaries?
You know, it's every market is different. It's not easy to compare to state. In that sense, in what you just laid out. But I will say that if I were to pick a state that is closest to Michigan, it would probably be California. Whereas it was an established market, very much grassroots, and you created your industry without really government oversight. And now they're expecting adult use here very soon. And I have close to firsthand information. The whole process that we're going through is due to the fact that adult use is coming. They want to be prepared for this. They want to have everybody licensed and be able to have money to go and do the inspections, knowing that adult use is coming. So, you know, California is going through the same growth issues right now. There are a lot of growers in California. So if you're in the California market, you know exactly what I mean. There's, you know, the catchphrase lately has been the race to the bottom on cultivation pricing, because there's so many growers out there. It's, you know, who can produce it the cheapest or who has to sell it the cheapest in order to survive, to move product, which is never a good situation to be in. But that's what we're seeing in California. And I hope that Michigan does not, you know, follow that path, and that, you know, the regulations that they're putting out there are going to, you know, pun intended, weed out the people that really don't belong growing in this industry, and that are going to be able to produce good quality product that passed analytical testing.
I had a conversation with someone yesterday that was talking about, and it was a broadcast just like this, and it was talking about the importance of having someone with that large amount of business sense on your team, and then having someone that has that great amounts of cannabis experience on their team. What does that partnership usually look like? Because a lot of people that do have that experience do want to be a part of this, but it can't really be done without that money and that really great business sense.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, that could be part of, not to, you know, get off of your question, but that could be part of the problem that the department is having with approving these licenses. They may be missing on certain aspects of the application that will have a negative outcome for the operation. And they realize that, and they want the owner or the applicant to understand that, and maybe to address it and adjust it and then resubmit. So where that comes from, you know, go back to your question, is not everybody is cut out for a large operation that's vertically integrated, that's heavily regulated. A good grower may want to just grow and be responsible for the operation, whereas someone who's rooted with finance and understands, how the company is going to stay afloat and to be able to brand accordingly and get market share and to be careful about certain things that are selling and not selling. That could be the kiss of death if you put too much emphasis on certain strains of products that don't move. And then you need to generate that income in order to keep the lights on. So back to your question, again, a roundabout way to get there, but it takes a lot of different people with different skill sets to come together and create an operation that's going to be successful. I think at one of your events and some of the other speaking arrangements that I've been at, I begin by saying 90% of you are going to hate me within the first 5 minutes, because I'm going to spell out exactly how difficult this industry is and what's required. And you're going to realize real quick, my dreams of being in this industry are going to be tough to realize, both financially and operationally. And I just don't know if I have it. Well, you do have it. You do have a skill set. Look to the person to the right, look to the person to the left. They have different skill sets. Shake hands, meet people, network, pull together a good team that's going to be successful in the end.
Well, yeah, and just go ahead and admit that you can't do this by yourself. I mean, it takes a village, literally. Like, it really takes a village to do this, and there's a lot of reason for it. Very heavily regulated.
Even if you could do it all yourself, you can't. There's just not enough hours. You need to delegate. You need to delegate accordingly to the people that you surround yourselves around with good people.
Right. Well, you have some tips for us. I'm having a hard time opening your slideshow, but there's a share screen button on your screen that you can press, and then we would be able to see your slideshow.
I do not have it up on my computer, so rather than
that's okay. That's okay.
Just go through it here. So, I'll take my eyes off the screen as I look at my cell phone here. Some of the things that people, when you're writing the applications, you want to think about going back to surrounding yourself with like-minded people and people that have different skill sets. When you write your application, you want to highlight the experience of all your partners, whether they're investors or they're your general partners or they're executive, executive positions, the COOs or CFOs. The industry, the Department of Health, they want to see regulated industry experience, agricultural experience, commercial manufacturing experience, pharmaceutical experience, if you will. Those are the different entities, different industries that really show that you're well-rounded and that you're not just do it all yourself, and that you have done the research and brought on people to stand up your company in those segments. It all starts with money. We were talking about that earlier. Before this started, Jamie and I were talking, and this is an expensive industry to get into, and it requires raising funds and speaking to investors. You only have one shot at an investor. Do your homework. Make sure you work with somebody that's familiar with the industry, not just somebody that knows their way around an Excel pro forma. They're going to be able to speak to your business better than someone that is in a different industry. But on the same hand, you need to understand your pro forma and your projections and your business model just as well as your finance director. At the end of the day, you're the one that's going to be borrowing this money or bringing on this money in an equity position, however it's structured, equity or debt. At the end of the day, the investor is going to be looking at you and, you there? Oh, you got it going. Thought I lost you. Yeah, at the end of the day, people that invest, they invest into people and then ideas second. So you need to understand your market rather than just talking to an investor and asking for money and handing all questions over to your finance director to answer.
Right. Sorry about that, Ron. I was able to get it going. So let me know if you want me to switch through to the next slide.
Sure. You can scroll down a couple, actually.
All right. Tell me when to stop.
Next one. Next one. Okay. Next one, please. All right. So, okay. Um, security is important to filling out the applications. Sometimes you're required to do criminal background checks, the securing of the facility, the technology that goes into the equipment to run your secure operation, whether it be where the plants are growing or in the vault, or a key card access for the employees. This is all information that is required as part of an application. You need to put together a security plan. I definitely recommend working with someone like ourselves who has cannabis security professionals that do this for a living on a national level. You can go to any security company and explain to them that you have a 20,000 square foot building that you need surveillance on. And unless they've done the cannabis industry, they're going to not be familiar and end up delivering you something that's more expensive or doesn't meet up to what the department is requiring. The other areas of the application are talking about how you're going to design your facilities so that MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, is the latest and greatest state-of-the-art equipment and is going to produce an environment that won't allow for pests or mold to grow. Therefore, your product at the end of the day is going to pass analytical testing. That being in Michigan is in any part of the country really, but in the northeast area of the country, we have a lot of humidity. You really need to make sure that your HVAC equipment, just your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing is designed for your region so that you run into problems. Another area of the application that you have to fill out, typically, and I'll back up a little bit, Jamie. This slide that we're going through, I'd like people to understand that we consult on a national level, and I explained earlier that the applications we put together are thousands of pages long. Lara does not require that, so this slideshow is over the top, if you will, but I've done it on purpose because I believe that a lot of the stalling at Lara's office is a result of having a wide variety of content that they're reviewing, and a lot of piece information. People are cutting and pasting and grabbing stuff off the internet, and it just makes it more difficult for them to review and to score, or not our case scoring, but just review and approve. So when we go through these slides, I just want people to understand that this is typically what we do in the larger markets where they have more extensive applications, if that makes sense.
Right, and I agree with that, Ron, because I'm hearing that Lara is going back to these applicants and asking for additional information, and there really isn't anything wrong with having too much information. In fact, I think too much information might be better than not enough, because if you don't have enough, they're coming back asking for it and going on to the next person. And so it's better to go ahead and be prepared and make them happy so they're not having to come back and get that additional information that they're expecting to see.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And when they receive hundreds, 500, 1,000 applications, however many they're going to receive at the end of the day, I do have firsthand knowledge that the department in any state, the first thing that they do, they go through each application and they look for the telltale signs of one that will fail, and that will be simple instructions. In some states, did you use blue ink? Because we don't allow blue ink. We want black. The minute they say blue, that entire application goes over to the side of the desk. Lara has the same thing. They have certain sections of this application that if those check boxes are not checked off, or if that information is not included, they stop. I mean, it's a first review for their administrative office to go through these and to make sure that the applications are complete and that they're completed the right way before they even start reviewing content. That removes a lot of applications from the process. Then at that point, the staff will get down to reviewing the applications and for thoroughness, and maybe at that point they come back to the client or to the applicant and request additional information, which is what we were just talking about. If you get to that point in the process, you don't want to have it kicked back to you because you didn't have enough content, or maybe you're packaging. Recently, they came out with packaging guidelines. Well, that's a result of what they were seeing. You know, they kept on seeing different packaging that was coming through, and they felt like the industry wasn't on board with what they wanted and what they would approve. So they put out that memo, and it educated the Michigan industry. And that's similar to what we do. You know, we try to make sure that we don't get an application pushed back to us, that we've covered all the bases right from the beginning. You see how long this is taking, and it'll continue to take longer. Time is money. A lot of people have money tied up in real estate. Investors, you know, they grow tired of the deal not getting off the ground, and that's all a negative impact on your operation. So get it right the first time, or as close to right as possible.
Right, I agree. And the packaging, you know, is going to be really, really important. Does it help to include like packaging examples within your application?
Absolutely. In every application we do, we take the company's name, logo, brand, colors, product lines. As a matter of fact, if the company already has a product line, we'll create the packaging and all the labeling with that actual product and what you can find in it. And it's all based on, in this case, Michigan's rules as to what they want to see on the label, on the packaging, and on the exit packaging. People don't realize that there's exit packaging. So when you go to Rite Aid, you have your bottle and you have your label on that, and they can't put everything on that label. So you have your extra label that comes with it, and then it goes into an exit bag that has probably that additional label information that's printed on a trifold or something stapled to the exit bag. All that has to be per state regulations.
Right. And do you feel like the packaging requirements that you are seeing with Michigan, are they really similar to other states that you have done work in? Are they a little bit more relaxed? Like, what are your opinions on that?
You know, they're pretty on par with what we see in other states. At the end of the day, you really need to put on your packaging your name of your company, address, the product information, and anything that is in the state regulations that they require. Part of the application process, that when we submit the packaging and labeling sample, we'll actually have line item identifiers pointing to each section of the label, and then that cites the state's law on why we're including that on the package, and we'll include the numbers that's associated with that. It's pretty similar to what I've seen elsewhere. I think that at the end of the day, it's just that this is new for Michigan, and if you don't have anybody that you're working with that's done it, it's going to be a chance to submit and see if you got it right the first time. And we don't want that. We want to, time is money, like I said.
Right. And so is patience.
Yeah. Yeah. You can click on. These are just areas that we typically like to address, or that we are required to address. We want to talk about secure disposal and destruction of cannabis, the ability to ensure product safety. Part of the background checks is that they want to know that they're working with applicants that haven't had licenses revoked. That could be for any industry, or in some states, they just want to know about cannabis licenses. So, you need to be aware of that. Just talking about the financials, if people are not accustomed to raising money and talking to investors, these slides here talk about how to create a financial pro forma, what's included in it. They're as pro formas are, they're assumptions based on your best understanding of you, your company, your market, and your competition. When you meet with investors, it's typically it's like dating, if you will. You have that initial phone call, and if you enjoy the conversation, you take it to the next level, and that usually an executive summary or some type of pitch deck that you've put together, and if you have them at that point, now you have to be ready to take a serious meeting to go over your performance, your projections, PPM if that's the direction you're going. I'll go back to what we were about earlier. You only have one shot with an investor. So on your very first phone call, they're going to decide right then and there if they'll even take the next phone call or follow-up email. So have all this information that we're talking about right here. And by the way, these slides are available. Provide them to Jamie, and Jamie can email them to everybody so you can refer back to them. You want to make sure that all these financial documents and projections are spot on, and you can answer the questions that are going to come your way. Know what's in your own deck.
Right. And then, so what happens? You pitch to an investor, which I'm sure a lot of people are a part of this or needing their investor. And a lot of times you don't get that investor until you've gone through the pre-qualification phase and you've gotten approved that way. And then number two, you get the money, right? And so at what point, like what's next after you do the pitch and then move on with discussions with the investor?
After you've made your pitch and you feel like there's a synergy, that you feel like there's an opportunity there, they want to invest in you, now you're going to really get down to term sheets. And the term sheet process is another dance. That's now you're beyond dating, now you're dancing, and it really is a dance. I would recommend to people not to get frustrated. Venture capitalists or investors, angel investors, they're successful and they're wealthy people and they're smart, and they will put you through a dance on purpose. It's not to you or to make you feel like hey, I'm the money man, and you're going to dance to my tune. It's not that at all. They are testing you. So it's part of the dance. You need to really understand that. Don't get frustrated with it. Hire an attorney that is familiar with pulling together venture capital deals or investments, whether it's going to be a debt type investment or equity. You need to have a lawyer that understands that and have them represent your wishes for the outcome. But you don't want your lawyer to speak on behalf of you, because your lawyer is not going to be running that operation on a daily basis, and your lawyer is not going to have an investment with the investor. You will be.
Right. And I agree with your statement about it being a lot like dating. I think it's important that as someone who's looking for an investor, that you date a lot of investors. You figure out which one might be the best solution and has the same thoughts as you, because it's going to be a long relationship with that investor. So you gotta really think hard and do your research and make sure it's going to be a good fit.
That's right. Yeah. You can keep. Yeah. So the just to round out the investor conversation, what you were mentioning, making you pick the right investor. It'd be nice, and this isn't always the case, but it'd be nice to have an investor that has a value add. I recently worked with a client that was in the botanical extraction business, and they were asked to invest into a cannabis, processing extraction company. That person had the money, they had the understanding of operations, they had the understanding of extraction. That was a beautiful fit. And just as long as they got along, that will be a successful relationship. But not all investors have cannabis experience or manufacturing experience or pharmaceutical, or they may have received their wealth through the IT, the com, or maybe it's generational wealth. That's okay as well. I just like to stress that if you can find an investor that has value add, it'll be beneficial down the road as you're growing operationally and you have somebody that you can talk to.
Right.
Let's see here. So customizing your application. Keep in mind, reviewing hundreds and hundreds of applications. They're reading the same material. There's only so much you can write about taking a clone and putting it into, Rockwell or cocoa or whatever you're using, and then treating it with certain nutrients. And if you're going to see a green or not, what type of lights you're going to do. And then when you talk about nutrients, integrative pest management, security, and there's so many sections of this of typical application that is pretty standard information at the end of the day. Okay. But if it's not well put together, if it's not well organized, and if it doesn't tell the story, then they're going to be lost trying to read it. And the other part is to customize that information. So you take your investor's background, you take your partner's background, you take your executive management or your strategic partners, if you're on working with industry consultants, and you customize this content, this industry content, whether it's cultivation or security, you customize it based on your background and your team's background. That really makes the application pop and stand out. When you refer to the operations manager for certain responsibilities, and then you refer to their background on what they did in their prior experience and prior jobs. So if you can just switch to the next slide there. When we talk about the owners, founders, investors, and their CVs or their bios, resumes, I recommend, if you're going to include that in the application, that they all look the same. Everybody uses a different type of template for their resume or their CV. It's worth it to have somebody take all of your resumes and CVs and to make them look identical to one another if you're going to submit those with your application. And then if you're referring to one of your investors or executive management team members as the COO or the CFO, make sure you use that terminology throughout the entire application. Don't bounce around from operations manager to COO. It just gets confusing. You want to keep your terminology accurate the whole time and consistent.
Ron, is it safe to say that there might be a marketing element to these applications? Making them visually appealing would make them more appealing to those that are reviewing them?
I can see why you say that. We have some guidelines with some of the other states that we can't do that. So we try to make it pop, if you will, through the branding and labeling, because that's one of the areas that you can do that. When you show your architectural renderings, we might have the company sign on the side of the building or something. You get a few things here and there just to get that across to the department. But we have our hands tied pretty much in these applications where they want a certain size font, they want the margins the right way, and you're only allowed a certain amount of characters or words, and you can't go over. So some states allow you to put images in, whether they're PDF images or if they're copy and pasted in body when you're referring to a certain type of panic alarm system in your security section. After you get done explaining it, you have a picture as like a show and tell.
Now, do you make any recommendations to licensees whether they need to submit through the online portal they have, or to actually submit it like a written application?
Once again, that's state dependent. We've worked in states where it's one or the other. I don't believe I've worked in a state where you do both. I would recommend, I'm old school, printing it off, putting it in a nice binder and submitting it. But in the case of like a state like Hawaii, you weren't allowed to do that. You had to follow their online application software program, and it is what it is. And that didn't come without problems, I can tell you that.
Right.
Right down to the wire, and you know their program was glitching, and we had to call and say, hey, we're not going to make the deadline because your program's not working. And they could see us in there working and downloading and hitting enter, and they just said, keep going, we're getting it. Okay. You have to trust them. Yeah.
Right.
Good.
Okay, next one.
Sure. Yeah, so we talked about that earlier. You can ensuring the format and structure and the terminology consistency. Edit your content for content clarity and story consistency. Proofreading. You know, another tidbit there. What we like to do is we like to refer to state regulation. So if we're talking, let's say we're talking about a security feature again, and we mentioned that we're going to use a certain type of equipment in a specific room, we will end that sentence with per state regulation XYZ.123. And in some applications, we're able to hyperlink that. The standard operating procedures that we develop for our clients, those are also hyperlinked and customized based on the state's application, the state's regulations. Yeah. So some of the things that you might want to think about addressing, even though Michigan doesn't require you to, these are other areas that we typically write about, and you don't have to read these. Again, this will be available for everybody, but Jamie, if you just want to leave these next pages up for a couple seconds each slide. Some of them may look familiar to you for what you have to do. Some of them may look more like standard operating procedures, which in some cases they are, but you know, the department wants to see that you understand your own operation. So what better way to do it than to customize written content as part of your application and submit it. Yep. So this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the creating packaging based on your brand and some of your product lines. We have, I would say, 90% of our clients are new to the industry, meaning they have never applied before. They're new to the industry, and they're applying for a license in a very competitive state. And some of the people have licenses throughout the country in multiple states, or even if they're just in one state, say they're from Colorado and they're applying in Michigan or in another state, they are going to bring their brand, their logo, their product formulations, and their strains. They're going to bring all of that to market. They've already developed it. They already have it ready to go, and they're going to show the state who they are. Most clients don't have any of that. So that's part of what we do is one of our first meetings we have with you is, who are you? What are you looking to do? Are you medical, nutraceutical? You know, what type of products do you want to create? And then we start to talk about the actual product lines. So we'd come up with, let's say, 24 SKUs, if you will. And that isn't 24 different products. It's more or less, I don't know, 8 different products with potentially 3 different ratios, if you will. So a 1-to-1 and et cetera. You know, if you wanted to do CBD to THC, you could have 3 different ratios and develop a whole line, create the packaging and the labeling for that, and present it to the department and, you know, show them that you actually know how to do this through your own experience or your consultants or strategic partners that you've hired to help pull this package, this application together. You're going to be competing against people that already have this and that they're selling it. And you need to stand up your company. You know, I tell a lot of people, when you go through the application process, you're actually starting a business. And in Michigan, you will get a license eventually. It may take you longer than you expected, but keep in mind, in other states, people spend $1 million creating their company, creating their application, holding down real estate, submitting an application. And if the state gave them a license, the next day I mean, they have done all the business startup that one could imagine from A to Z. All they have to do now is go do it. And then they're the unlucky groups that don't get a license, and they've spent all that time and money to start a company and don't get the chance to. So Michigan, you are in a good position, just right the time, so that you're not having your application kicked back and, like we said, costing more time.
Right.
So we talked about that. We can skip over that. I think that's pretty much it for the slides, so Jamie.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Ron. This is everyone's time. If you want to ask some questions, Ron is here with us to answer some of the questions. Ron, one thing that I did, and by the way, you can use the Q&A feature or the chat feature on your screen to submit your questions, and we'll get them answered before we leave this. One thing I wanted to ask you, yesterday there was some really big news that came out talking about how the FDA has approved a cannabis-based drug called Epidiolex, and in order for them to legally prescribe it, it's now going to the DEA to decide whether to reschedule or deschedule. With that kind of news, give us a little bit of your industry opinion on that. You know, it was huge news, and holy moly, you know, it could really change the landscape of cannabis on a federal level.
Yeah. So any news like that, in my opinion, is good news for our industry. It shows that we're moving forward. It shows that we have the eyes and the ears of the people that matter in Washington, D.C., unfortunately, but that's, you know, those are the people we need to impress and to grow up around. And, you know, companies like GW that are doing it, hats off to them. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money. Early on in the industry, I used to get kind of frustrated about some of these technologies because I felt like it was going to take the industry in a different direction. But as I talk to the people, you know, people like you and I, we go to a lot of conferences together. We see each other at networking events, and you just talk to people. And at the end of the day, people like to have smokable bud. So,
right,
create all the products you want.
You know, this is medicine, but at the same time, I mean, so much is happening recreationally, and it's truly hard to stop that. I mean, it's a done deal at this point. I mean, we've had recreational 4 years now, almost 4 years, you know, in Colorado, actually 4.5 years. So it really is. Okay. Well, thank you very much. You know, it was such huge news, and I felt like there's a lot of things that are happening that makes it look like that something is going to happen very soon on a federal level. You know, there's a lot of bipartisan bills that are being introduced, and who knows what's going to happen over the next few months, you know, and then there's the lawsuit too. against Jeff Sessions that, you know, they're planning to appeal it if they have to all the way to the Supreme Court. And now the FDA has said, yeah, this is medicinally beneficial. Well, it can't be Schedule 1, you know, the same as heroin at that point. So something's going to happen. And, you know, Ron, good for you. You've been doing this for several years. You are in a great spot with the services that you provide and the band that you have put together. And it's great to have you as a founding member here at Cannabis Connection. Before we go, I would like to, let's see here. Okay, so thanks to Ron, our founding partners. You know, he is our licensing and application expert. We have THC 123, a staffing agency, Bricks and Mortar Insurance, Cola Marketing, Canna Media Works, National Cannabis Security Services, LC Solutions Michigan, Ingrid Marketing, and ICS Consulting. We do have some webinars coming up in July. We're taking a break for next week since Tuesday falls on July 3rd, and I want everyone to be able to enjoy their Independence Day. But every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, we are here bringing you, except the 3rd, we're bringing you information on how to build a business in the cannabis industry. There is our schedule for the month of July. We are talking about seed to sale tracking, staffing plans, promoting safety and security, and then how to build a memorable brand for your cannabis business. All of these webinars are available on the Cannabis Connection website. All you have to do is go to cannabisconnection.com/learning academy. And when you do that, you can access all the webinars. All you have to do is sign up for the free account. And then we are kicking off networking events across the state of Michigan starting next month. We're going to have one in Ann Arbor, Detroit, and Lansing for July 26th. Every Thursday, we are going to be hosting these networking events. We knew that it was a huge need to have more networking events where we can come together and find our team members and find those investor potentials and find those strategic partners, you know, dispensaries that you're looking to provide product to and so forth. So make sure you do that, and then you'll get access to all of our past webinars. And it looks like we have a question. Let's see here. Let me get it answered. Well, there we go. Okay. So, thanks for Aaron. Thank you for being on our webinar. So I guess that's it. Aaron was telling us a great webinar. So Ron, as usual, thank you so much. I look forward to having you again. Coming up probably in a couple of months, we'll be talking about other topics. Ron, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, we do smoke signals, pigeon courier. Now you can reach me on my cell phone. It's 207-318-1936. My email is rsmalley@vistagreenscg.com, and the website is www.vistagreenscg.com. We just redid our website, so if you're looking for events to go to throughout the country, it's pretty elaborate events calendar on there, as well as news and articles that we post. So I welcome you to check it out.
And we did have a question come in. We have, okay. Would a change from medical to adult in Michigan change anything about the licensing process in Detroit? Would local approval still be required in Michigan, or would it be like Massachusetts where there is more restrictive on banning? You know, I can answer that question. With the adult use initiative, the municipalities still have a lot of control. I do believe if they are allowing medical already, they're kind of going to be allowing recreational. I don't want to say that that's official, but I do know that the municipalities still have a lot of control when it comes to the adult use initiative. So I think if it, you know, Detroit has some things that they need to get lined out. And you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Right now, we only have 96 municipalities that have opted in so far, and there's like 1,700 in the state of Michigan. So it's a minor fraction of municipalities that have opted in so far. And you know, I think us as an industry, we need to be doing our due diligence to band together, to be helping support each other. You know, there's plenty of pieces of the pie, and 96 municipalities. I mean, we have 300,000 registered medical marijuana patients in Michigan, and that's a massive demand. We're the second largest medical market in the country. So do your due diligence and support your neighbors. Go to those municipality meetings and help educate some of these people that are making these decisions, because it's just, it seems to me every municipality meeting that I have attended, most of them, it seems like there's just a general lack of understanding about what the regulated environment looks like. I mean, over the last 10 years, we've had an unregulated environment thrive. So it's a changing game now. So anyhow, I think that is the end of our questions. Ron, thank you so much for joining us. And my bird is telling me that I need to go off.
Wrap it up.
Right?
Wrap it up.
So, see you guys. Have a great holiday, and we will see you again in a couple of weeks. Thanks so much, Ron.
Thank you.